Ocarina of Time is probably one of the most recognizable 3D Zelda games. It was my first 3D game, at least my first 3D Zelda, and frankly, it's what got me into the series. It's also my personal favorite, and I always have a blast when I'm actually playing it just because the dungeons and just a bunch of other stuff that make me really love the game. I've played a ton of the N64 version, and then when I saw that it was getting a 3DS version, I was also really happy. And then I finally got around to playing some of it, and I really do like it. And then I've also noticed quite a bit of changes in the game, and I've read about the changes and I saw them, and I actually got to play it. And frankly, I think this one's a lot better than the N64 title. And let's actually go get into the changes, just because that's what you probably clicked on the video for. First off, there's been an upgrade to the speed, because in the N64 version it was capped at 20 FPS, but in the 3DS version they bumped it up to 30 FPS. And take it from the guy who's played the N64 version a lot, this one feels a lot faster and just smoother to play. Another great feature that the 3DS version has is a slightly different item system. Now you can actually have up to 4 items on at a time, with 2 being virtual buttons on the touchscreen and the other 2 actually being on the face buttons. This of course obviously makes the iron boots and other items a lot more manageable to use. Like for example, you can put the bombs on there and you could just tap it on the bottom screen, and then you could just use it without having to press the button. And frankly, it's kind of good just because they're all a lot more passive items, like the bombs and the Deku nuts, Deku sticks and stuff like that. So this was a really nice change. Another small change that Ocarina of Time uses is that Navi actually doesn't really you can't press a button for it anymore. So you just have to tap someone on the bottom screen, I think, and then she would talk. Another really good thing is that you actually have to use gyro, or you can use gyro controls in this game, which is really nice just because now you don't have to aim with the analog stick. And frankly, gyro controls is really easier to use, and frankly, almost every single time you're using it, you're in a first person mode, or you're on horseback, which is also in first person. So I think it's really useful in this version, and I'm really enjoying that feature. Then there's also a slight change to the Ocarina, and now it's actually tied to a virtual button on the top left of the screen, or at least the top left of the bottom screen. This is actually really useful because again, now you don't have to waste a face button for it, so you can just quickly tap it and then get ready to play the songs as whenever you want. And then another really useful feature is how you can actually see these songs on the bottom screen, because if you're like me and you forget the songs a lot, then it's a really nice feature, because you can just see it and then do the song. This version also has the Master Quest built into the game. All you have to do is finish the game once, and then you can actually get it. And this is actually really cool because Master Quest is probably one of the coolest side modes of any Zelda game, just because it actually gives a really big challenge. And now this is actually the last time we saw it, since the first time we saw it was when it was on the GameCube disc. And frankly, I kind of wish other games did a Master Quest. I was actually hoping that Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD would do something like that, but they didn't, which kind of sucks. But at least Ocarina of Time is the only one that did that, which I think makes it a lot more unique. This version also actually has a boss challenge mode, which of course lets you face the older bosses with certain items. There's some unlocks after you beat the forest temple, which isn't too far in the game, because it's the first adult dungeon, so you can probably get there within maybe 5-ish hours, depending how well you know the dungeons. For me, since I played the game a lot, I can probably get there again in 5 hours, just because I'm really used to it, maybe even less. I'm not sure, I haven't checked, but still, it's also a really neat mode. Then there's also a boss rush mode, which is unlocked after you beat every single boss. So of course you also have to beat the game at least once just to get it, because of what I just said. This game also has Sheikah stones, which is actually very similar to how it worked in Skyward Sword, where you actually just have to go to them and they give you hints on how to solve a puzzle or a boss, which is super useful just because, if you haven't played the game before, you just need that hint and you can go to it and then, get the hint. Then there are also plenty of changes in this game that are just graphically different from the N64 version. Stuff like the pre-rendered backgrounds are now fully 3D, stone walls and Go On City actually have a lot more detail, parts of the geometry are slightly better, and a lot of other changes in the game. I'm not going to go all of them, but there are some pretty small changes in this game, like for example, there was the pre-rendered background at the Temple of Time. It is now fully modded in 3D. There are also some bigger changes to some of the temples and the dungeons in the 3DS version, which I think that makes it a lot better to go through. And there are some other changes like that are just really minor, like graphical changes. But honestly, again, the changes I'm actually going to mention actually kind of affect the dungeon in a bigger way, where the first change is actually to the first temple, and it shows a cutscene when you first enter it. This actually shows a chest that's near the top, which frankly, if you're like me, and I actually missed it the first time I played it, because I didn't think of to climb all the way at the webs and jump over the tree logs, because I just didn't see it. And frankly, it's a really good change just because there is a small key there, and if you miss it, you're gonna be scrambling to find that one key. And honestly, just trust me on this, it's really annoying because the temple on the first time was just not fun to go around all the moves, and then you just realize, oh, it's in the first room, like it's really missable, right? Then there's the water temple, which I think got the best change. This one shows a colorful border to show you where the water levels, like where you can actually change them, and it actually shows you by how much. And honestly, this is a godsend compared to the original, just because you had to guess, and then you just had to, hopefully that you got to the right one, and then you actually need to finish that flow with whatever, water level it's raised up to. So thank God for that. Now we move on to some changes that they made to the items in the game. One of the changes has to be to the Stone of Agony, which they changed into the Shard of Agony, but realistically they function the same way. But in this case, an image pops up in the top left of the screen, and you just have to walk around to see how close you are to the secret, and then you can just do what the hell you need to do. Then the boomerang that Link gets, it can actually be called right back to him. And frankly, this is a really useful change, just because if you mess up the shot, you just quickly get it back to him and not have to wait like an extra couple of seconds. Then the hook shot actually got a small change to where the aiming pointer is now a red laser, and it shows an extra red ring to tell you that wherever you're talking at can actually be grabbable, and if you can actually shoot at, it also helps with aiming. Just say if you want to get a gold scatula or just a normal scatula down, you can just aim and it shows you if it actually will hit it. Then there are some changes to some of the character models like Sheik and Muto. Sheik's character model is a bit more feminine just due to the whole fact that she is Zelda, and that way you can actually kind of easy to tell since she is more or less just Zelda in disguise. And then there was also Ruto, which was designed to look a lot less naked in this version, which is fine I guess, but it's not really a big deal to me since she's a fish, and fish don't really wear clothes, but not a big deal. Then there's also Impa, and her default pose actually got changed to where now her right arm is raised up a little bit and her right elbow is resting on her left hand, but before her arms were just folded. Now we have some random changes, and one of them were some glitch fixes. One of the bigger ones have to be the fact that Link couldn't get the Dekuna upgrade in the forward stage after getting the Poacher Saw. Another one where the Z targeting is a bit more loose, because now I think you can actually target things that are behind Link, which is kind of nice, but I haven't really noticed all that much for me, but whatever. And honestly, text moves a lot faster in this game, which is amazing since in the original it moved at a snail's pace. The first medallion actually has 3 arms instead of 4, and the color on the spirit medallion is a bit more yellow here. This is actually shown off in the platform in the Temple of Light. And after looking at the changes that they made to the 3DS version, I could say that a lot of them are for the better. Whether it's a big change or a small change, it's still, again, the best version to play the game. A lot of graphical changes were made, and of course a lot of the bigger changes like the item management, just some changes to some of the bad parts of the game like the Wild Temple. A lot of these changes were, again, just to improve the core experience. And frankly, this is still way better than the original. The original was solid, but this is like an A-tier remake. it still keeps the spirit of the original intact and just makes it a lot more fun to play, in my opinion. And frankly, if you do have a 3DS, I'd suggest you pick this up if you can, because I know of the troubled times we're all in right now. But frankly, if you can get it, you should, just because it's really fun and it's the best version to play the game. But still, thank you guys for watching the video, and see you guys later.